Welcome to today's webinar, Approaching Digital Citizenship with Common Sense. And I'm going to just start with a few little introductory things and then turn it over to what you all came here for. But my name is Mary Carnahan, and I am the eLearning Resource Specialist with the Indiana Department of Education in the Office of eLearning. And we're really happy to have you all here today for our first webinar of the 2017-18 school year. This is our first one in a couple of months, so hopefully there won't be any little glitchy stuff or forgotten things. You know, after between 2 and 3 months off, we're all a little rusty, as you guys probably may have felt the last week or two in your schools or classrooms. So we will all get through this hour, and I'm sure you all will leave with a lot of great information in an hour from here. So again, like I said, I just want to get started with a few housekeeping things, and then I will turn it over to Michelle. So if you are hearing my voice, that means that you connected to the audio successfully. Congratulations on that. If you have not introduced yourself in the chat box, feel free to do that. It's not too late. Hopefully you all see that chat box on the right side of your screen. Your screens look a little bit different than mine, but I believe that you have that on the right side of your screen. Use that chat box throughout the call today to ask questions of the presenters, ask questions of each other, share ideas and things that you may be doing in your classrooms. That isn't just intended to be you know, a place for questions. We definitely want to utilize it for like a back channel conversation. So please be sharing and asking questions in there. And because we have that chat box, we ask everyone to keep your lines muted throughout the call. You all were muted when you came into the call today, and I would ask you to please keep your lines muted. Inevitably, there will be somebody who unmutes themselves, and then a bell rings in the background, or the PA system, an announcement is made. So we just ask everyone to keep your lines muted so that we don't have any of that background noise going on. And one thing I forgot to mention, when you're using that chat box to ask questions and such, make sure that in that Send To drop down right above where you type in your text, make sure that it says Send To Everyone. It will default to send all messages only to me, and we want everybody to be in on the conversation. So please use that and make sure that you have it set to Send To Everyone. Just really quickly, I wanted to throw out a couple of things. We have some ongoing professional development that's online, and some of it is anytime, some of it is in time, such as this. But I do record the webinars, and we have all of those archived. And I will try to get the link to that. I can't get to the internet. I can't get to other windows while we're here, so I might ask Michelle here in a little bit when she's done with her section of the call to share the link. But we do archive our webinars as long as we don't have technology issues during the call. We record those, so those are available. But we do have our next one coming up is September 6th. At 4 p.m. That's a Wednesday. Typically we do these on Tuesdays, but that one is a Wednesday, and that is Collaboration Central, and we'll be talking about utilizing digital resources, digital content in your classroom, and we are going to get to talk about Amazon Inspire. Our partner in crime, Molly Yoel, who is a classroom teacher but also works with us part-time, is going to be talking about Amazon Inspire and other ways to find and locate some good digital content. So please plan to join us on September 6th. And I also threw up the Twitter chat here. We will also have other webinars coming up, so just watch our website and make sure that you're connected with us via social media, Facebook, Twitter. We share these dates also as we get them on our calendar. And I mentioned our Twitter chats here, but I know that Michelle is going to be talking about those a little bit more in detail here in a little bit, so I will not take up time for that. But on that note, I am going to turn it over to Michelle Green and let her introduce herself and our presenters for the day.
Hi, everybody, and I'm going to give a quick, or as quick as I can, overview of what we're planning for Indiana Digital Citizenship Week, as well as tying that into how you can work towards being digital citizenship recognized by Common Sense Education. And I use the word recognized purposefully. They used to have a certification program which has been revamped, and so we'll go into that a little bit. So if you saw the description from the webinar, you know we're going to talk about how participating during Indiana Digital Citizenship Week on the 11th through the 15th of next month can help you really get that work started. It can launch your recognition program. And so we have with us 3 different districts today, and they're going to talk about things from various levels, and I'm excited for them to get a chance to do that. Before we advance the slide, you'll see that we've got Common Sense Education and Indiana Department of Ed at the bottom. That's just to kind of highlight the fact that Common Sense Education is our partner for Indiana Digital Citizenship Week. There were a number of things that went into that decision, but primarily it was because Common Sense Education has a comprehensive K-12 program that involves all stakeholders. And if anybody here was part of our summer book club last year, you know that we, or maybe it wasn't summer, I'm sorry, Mary, it was fall. We really want to go with that community-based approach. We want all stakeholders invested because we know that that's how you really start developing a culture of digital citizenship. And if we go ahead and look at the next slide, you'll see some of the elements that come along with Common Sense. So I mentioned all the stakeholders are there. Their number one component that really impressed us as a team making a decision about which group or which organization to go with was the amount of educator support built into Common Sense's resources. So not only do they have phenomenal, well-researched curriculum, but they have developed professional development to go along with that, and they've revamped it significantly from past years. And Amy will be talking a little bit later, she and Jenna, and they were the first Indiana district to be certified. And back in that day, you watched a tedious 1-hour webinar. That's no longer the case. So there's this really great personalized learning modules that you can work through. Additionally, there is a brand new digital teaching center, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. I see it's kind of chopping off some of the image, but so I kind of diagonal across the slide there. Above that, usually there's the family engagement piece. That's an important stakeholder group. But then, of course, the key is the student engagement. And as you may have seen in the chat, some of us have used things like iPad and Nearpod. But basically, there are 2 types of engagements. There's a teacher-led piece, and there's a student-led piece. And the student-led piece is for 3rd grade through 12th grade. And there are 3 different interactives available. And so these are just kind of quick overview of why we looked at Common Sense and what made us decide to go that direction specifically for Indiana Digital Citizenship Week. Now, Mary, go ahead and we can advance to the next slide. You can see that what we've done is we've put together a resource toolkit. This is on our DOE webpage for digital citizenship. I stuck that link in the chat window earlier, and I can go back and do that again if it's gotten too far up in the channel, or if you can't access it because you came in later and I can't remember if WebEx will do that or not. But I'll re-enter this. You'll see that there are 3 basic sections. We have a section for building leadership. So if any of you are building leaders or district leaders, we've put together something to help basically principals organize what might be able to happen in their school and support their teachers. There's a very basic registration form, which is actually the same for no matter what role you're in. And then there's a family engagement plan. And then under the classroom resources, we've broken that down by grade bands. And I'll show, if you haven't already explored that already on the web page, I'll show a screenshot later on so you can kind of see how that's laid out. And then at the bottom, we've got some sample tweets and things, not just tweets, though, basically posts for Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, you name it. And then there's a copy of our joint press release, and we're very excited that this year the governor did do a proclamation for Indiana Digital Citizenship Week, and so you can actually download that too if you wanted to share that. So all of the materials that are in this set of resources are things that are going to support your district or your school or even just your classroom, you as an educator, in becoming digital citizenship recognized through Common Sense. And so I'll work through that in just a moment. Before we move to that, though, let's go ahead and look at some other recommended resources, because as much as we love Common Sense and we think they've got some great things going, Mary, if you push the next slide, you'll see that there's other really amazing resources, and there's no way we can list them all. And that's, again, another reason why I encourage you to go into the digital citizenship community on Google+. I'll post that link once more. It's currently in the chat window. But this slide really highlights two very strong examples. So there is the brand new Google for Education's Be Internet Awesome program. This is designed primarily for 3rd through 5th grade, although people have used it with younger and higher grade levels. It's fairly new. It was launched this summer. As a matter of fact, if you're attending ICE, Johnny Perry, who is coming from, I believe, Lexington to be one of our speakers, Tim, you can correct me what role he's going to be in there at ICE, but he piloted this with Google for Education. His kids were part of the feedback group, and it is extraordinary. It was launched at ISTE this summer. It had strong reviews. I've gotten to play around with it, and there will be on the 13th, which happens to be during Indiana Digital Citizenship Week, there will be a live YouTube session. Now, the link's not live, the link's not available yet, but we will be promoting that across all of our different channels and, of course, in the digital citizenship community on Google+. Additionally, BrainPop has done something really exciting. I don't know, do we have any BrainPop users in the group? Anybody? Go into the window so I can see if you're using BrainPop. I loved BrainPop when I was in the classroom, except that the first 2 years I used it, I had to just use the free resources because my district wasn't purchasing it. The last year I was teaching, we had a free license, we had the full license, and I was going berserk. Previously, BrainPop had a lot of videos for digital citizenship that were not free. So now they all are. What they're going to be doing is they've put together a series of those topics. I think there are like 20-something topics that they've identified that relate to digital citizenship, and they've made them all free, and they've built in some really great activities with their creativity tools. And so our own Indiana Sarah Hunter is going to be presenting with Jessica from BrainPop on the 13th at 4 o'clock, and just to show us what's available in that new collection of resources. So while we do promote common sense education throughout the week, there are so many other really valuable tools, and we wanted to highlight these particular two during that time. Additionally, Mary, if we skip to the next slide, you'll see that Indiana Chat, IME Learn Chat on Thursday nights for the next 3 weeks, we're really stepping up our conversations around digital citizenship. Actually, last week, Amy Haven had a really great conversation with digital leaders and with basically digital principals about how are you a digital leader. And that was kind of our soft start to this series. And so this Thursday, we have our classroom teacher strand. The following week will be kind of I get to do a takeover, so it's the 5th Thursday, and it will kind of be around student leadership, but it's not just student leaders. And then the first week of the month, that first Thursday before Indiana Digital Citizenship Week, is our coaches strand. And so that particular topic is really focused at coaches, but again, everyone's welcome to any of the chats that you're interested in. Next slide. Keeping with the themes of what's going on with digital citizenship, we have selected our fall book club, and I really should let Mary talk about this, but we're going to go quickly. So watch for details. We'll have more coming out soon, but this is the book. You are the first to hear it. Master the Media by Julie Smith, and she did speak during some of eLearning. She's a powerful researcher and thinker around what it means for our students to be prepared to be in the digital world. And she has this book as well as many others, but this is what we'll be looking at this fall. So that's exciting, and that's going to launch the week of the 11th through the 15th. And then, again, the next slide is just another reminder of our digital citizenship community. I hope everybody joins in here. I will throw the link in once more, but you can see if you're not familiar with Google+, basically, when you get to the link, you'll see a page that looks similar to this. It will have a green join button, and you just simply take that simple step of going through there. And then we've got on this particular slide is our introduction strand. But you can visit the general strand, you can go look at grade level resources, you can look at general resources, just a lot of things to check out. And please let it be a place where you share your questions and your resources, things that worked and things that didn't. Whatever is going on, it's a great place to start those connections and continue supporting each other in our work. So now we're ready to talk about that new recognition program that I alluded to. So the recognition program is going to still be for educators, schools, and we don't have a sticker yet for districts, but it's going to take one step further than the past program. So previously they recognized schools with a certification. They're going to take away the certification title, but what they're doing is actually adding a new element. So it's not just digital citizenship. Now we're going to be talking about digital learning in conjunction with being digital citizens. So this week, we're going to be having this September 11th through the 15th. We'll give you just an opportunity to launch the different steps that you need to take in order to become recognized with common sense. And I'm going to glance at so Candace beat me to the punch. Okay, well, if there aren't any questions, I'm going to go ahead and move. I feel like I'm going kind of fast, but I'm trying to do that so that we get more time for our speakers to share their stories. So Mary, our next slide, let's talk about what it takes for an educator to be certified. And this is the recognition program. I will drop the slide in if you haven't already found your way to this. But there are basically 2 steps to the application. And the goal is to demonstrate your commitment to creating that culture of digital citizenship, and now digital teaching is in addition to that. So the first part is really simply just joining the community for common sense, so going onto their webpage and opening your profile, getting that started, and then join now the Facebook group. It used to be that you would go to EdWeb or Edmodo. Now they're just simply doing Facebook. If we have any non-Facebook users, they will accommodate you, but you just need to reach out to them and let them know that's what's going on. And then the second part of the application is a 3-step learn, do, and reflect. So much like we want our kids to have, voice and choice in the classroom, they have provided that to us for our own professional learning, which is really nice. And each of these activities, if we go to the next slide, Mary, you'll see that you can select off of a menu in a sense. Now, in the green, I've circled the things that you would be doing as part of the Digital Citizenship Week. And so on Monday, what we've done is we've made that a day devoted to teacher education. And anyone, no matter what you're doing in your school, you can implement Digital Citizenship Week however you'd like. But we've done that just so that there's a day where teachers can know, oh, I'm just taking care of my own learning today. That's my focus. Now, in the blue, what I've done is if you are pursuing the recognition program, these are some things that you would want to do. And there are lots of choices, but these would be the 2, what I would say, most basic ways to enter into that. And this would also, of course, support your one-to-one work, could support that vision that you have as a district or a school for digital learning and digital citizenship. And so I've kind of circled, like I thought, the most basic entry level. So the teaching strategies pages, if you can see those, they talk about things that are pretty common in the classroom, especially when you're first moving into the one-to-one implementation. The idea of, like, how do I deal with digital distractions, and how do I protect my students' data, their privacy? I think these topics are pretty much broad enough that no matter where you are in implementation, they're a great review, and also they're not dependent on content areas. And then if you, to do the do section, if you create a digital teaching implementation plan, that could be something that you could be using in the bigger picture. So not creating new work or more work, but using this process to really strengthen the work that you're already doing is kind of the idea. On the next slide, you'll see the actual requirements for school. And they're not too different than the previous for certification, but they've been a little bit of a tweak. So, and you see where things are bolded, that's where we have some different changes. And so previously we had schools create their vision for digital citizenship. Now we're adding the digital teaching element. Then a school will have to create an implementation plan, and this is kind of a no-brainer. It's like you want to have a plan in order to do something, to get something done. So you need to know who's going to be responsible, where is it going to happen, when is it going to happen. So that's pretty straightforward. And then the Digital Citizenship Week, and that plan for Digital Citizenship Week is laid out for you. So basically, you can go to that website that I shared earlier, and you can access each grade levels, and you'll have an implementation plan there for them in a sense. The PD on Monday will take care of digital citizenship. If you want to go after recognition, you want to add that other piece, which is the digital teaching. And that was what I alluded to with the blue circles in that earlier screen. And then the next step down would be the actual instruction of the curriculum. So the Common Sense education resources are shared with students, in like all students, if you would. So if you're going to be in a building that's 6 through 8, for example, and you are taking 2 of those grade levels, although I would recommend doing 3, and you'll see in a second why. So let's say grade 6 through 8 building, you're going to do all 3 grade levels. That means you're going to reach every student in that building. And so if you did 2 grade levels, you have to teach 5 lessons. And I've already told you that Monday is devoted to teachers. So for Digital Citizenship Week, if you chose to go that 2 grade levels, you would want to find a 5th lesson and work that in later on. But at 3 grade levels, you need to teach 3 lessons. And then there's also modules or storylines, and that's broken down because, like I mentioned, there are interactives. So in the middle school level, your students could do 1 module of one of the interactives rather than the teacher-directed lessons. You also need to engage parents school-wide and educate them in 3 distinct ways. One of those ways can simply be sharing some of the things that I've put in the parent implementation plan. We have links to the Common Sense blog, to their website. Those are both appropriate choices. Could also be creating a newsletter or sending home the worksheets, and all those worksheets that are aligned with student lessons are linked in the teacher plans for everybody, so you don't have to do extra work to find all those kinds of things. And then the third type of parent education or outreach could be an in-person event or a variety of other things, and there's a lot of examples that will get shared today. And then the very final piece, that if you are doing Digital Citizenship Week, being aware of this is important, collecting your documentation, screenshots or student examples of work, anything that you think would be a good example. It's just smart to collect 3 pieces of that because you'll use it in your application. On the side, I hope you saw that Common Sense is going to be doing an EdWeb webinar. I had shared that link earlier, and I'll put it in there again. It's called Getting Recognized for Advanced Teaching, Digital Teaching and Citizenship. That is August the 29th, and it will be led by Louisa Sullivan. She's fantastic, and she will give you lots of information. So definitely encourage you, if you feel like you have lots of questions after today, or you just want to hear it from another perspective, or right straight from the horse's mouth, go ahead and check that out. It's on EdWeb, but it's being hosted by Common Sense. Thanks, Mary. Next. So I mentioned on this next slide that you're going to see what it looks like, what we put together. So here's an example of the K2. As you see, Monday is devoted to educator training. There is a suggestion to go ahead and send home a family letter that day to kind of prepare parents for what's coming. And then Tuesday through Friday, there are 4 different strands or topics, and each of them has a set of lessons. So the main lesson is in that lesson row. But I kind of laid out the Indiana standards, included a video, and then the family connection sheets. Understanding that you may not have 45 minutes to teach a full lesson, you may just be sharing the video or doing an adapted piece to that. And then for each grade band, one day, and I believe most of them are going to be on Wednesday, we have adapted a Common Sense lesson into a breakout EDU activity. For K-12, that one is still in the works because, quite honestly, I was a secondary teacher and I'm still trying to figure out how to work with non-readers. This was taking me a lot longer than I wanted, but each of those will be available for the week, and then some of them are stronger examples than others. They've been made digital, so you can do them without having a breakout EDU box, although if you have the box and you want to use physical things, you can adapt those lessons really easily as well. Any questions so far? Okay, so does the in-person PD have to be delivered by a Common Sense ambassador, or can a coach do that? A coach can do that for credit. So an ambassador certainly is great, but if your building has a coach and you're providing PD to prepare your teachers, that does count. Good question, Seth. Mary, next slide. So at the district level, or at the school level, you have decided how many grade levels are participating in your certification process. Again, I mentioned ideally you want to go with 3 because that means you have to teach 3 days of lessons or 3 45-minute lessons, and you can do that during the Digital Citizenship Week. For a district to be certified, you need 50% of your schools to have met that certification or actually recognition requirement. and then you can apply. If only 50% or less than 100, between 50 to 100% of your schools are certified, or 50 to 90% of your schools are certified, you want to have a plan for the remainder of the schools that are not currently recognized or certified, is the previous word. That plan can be up to 2 years long, so you have lots of flexibility there, but there really isn't anything to stop you once you reach 50% of your schools to go ahead and apply for your district. And I think one of our groups might talk about how they did, in fact, decide they wanted to wait until 100% of their schools were certified, or at that time certified, before applying for the recognition. What is important to know is that when you are, like if you want to say time, if you are a district lead, the project lead, it's much easier to do the district application than doing each of the schools. But however, some schools want to go ahead and get their certification right now, and that's perfectly okay. They can do that. There's no reason why they couldn't. All of you districts and schools have until July 1st of next school year, or next year, to get your certification in. And then you'll receive a banner, if you would, a logo saying that you were certified for the previous school year. Mary, we can go to the last slide, because now it's time for me to stop rambling over all of those details and really turn it over to the people that you want to hear from, because we have with us 3 previously certified school districts. And we're going to start with Liberty Perry. And if you notice, their first year being certified was 2014, and that was before it was really even on our radar. We had been aware of it. We really weren't promoting it, but I was just really impressed. And so in 2015, they were the first ones to share with our IME Learn network what was that like being certified and what kind of things did they do to make that happen. And so I'm really excited to welcome back the Liberty Perry team. With us today are Jenna and Amy. They have spent the past 4 years ensuring teachers have the training to successfully use technology to enhance their curriculum at Liberty Perry School. And so, ladies, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, so this again is just kind of our information in case anyone wants to contact us afterwards. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Just to give you a little information about us, we do have a district hashtag, so anytime you're looking on Twitter, you know, if you want to see things we're doing, it's LP Selma. But we have about 1,200 students. We have 3 buildings. So we have 1 elementary, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. We're one-to-one with iPads in grades 4 through 12. Each of our buildings has 2 teachers who teach full-time but serve as technology coaches. That has been Jenna's role in the past, and I'm so excited this year. She is stepping out of the classroom and going to be a district integration specialist. So working with those teachers, just having someone outside the classroom available on a daily basis, we're really excited about to help them develop digital curriculum, model some things. We just think this is going to be great for our district. When I talk about things that we're doing in our district, I think it's important to know our elementary has a technology rotation. So just as our kids go to PE and music, they have a technology rotation. And both our middle school and high school have a school-wide time when no students are receiving instruction. We call that homeroom at the middle school and academic lab. At the high school, they happen at different times in their building. They're different lengths of time, but those are some of the resources that have made these things possible in our district. So the next slide, again, just talks about our vision. You know, we're the school, we're providing the device for the students, so therefore we kind of felt it was our responsibility to make sure that we were teaching our students how to use them safely, that teachers are modeling that in their use as well. For the next slide, so like I said, we've done this for quite a few years. Things have changed throughout the process. Initially, I went and looked at the criteria for certification and then went to each administrator to talk to them about how they wanted to see that implemented in their building. You know, which people did they want me to use, which grade levels did they think would be, you know, most involved, and things like that, just so they felt it's always easier when they think their administrators on board. I also worked with the tech coaches because, again, they're their peers. They're their colleagues in the building. So we all brainstormed and collaborated. We took a PD day, and we looked at the criteria. They kind of looked at the resources on Common Sense, and we decided what we were going to implement. So these are steps, honestly, now that I feel like Michelle's doing for us and making things a whole lot easier, but what we did initially. And then we just promoted, we share information on our website. We're tweeting about what we're doing in the classroom, sending home family tip sheets. But my whole goal was to make this as easy as possible for teachers. If we gave them something else they needed to incorporate, their thinking standards and all of those things, I think we would have got pushback. But it was literally, here's the resources, just share this with your class today. And then the next slide. And again, I feel like I've learned a lot throughout this process. Initially we were a Google Apps school. So that's how we were sharing resources. So those schools who don't have an LMS, like that is an easy way that worked for us. During that Digital Citizenship Week, there's one that also in October, we were doing one lesson per week. Back then, I completed the school applications for each building, and then I had asked my coaches to do their own. You'll see that I've learned that that's the long way to do things. That year, we did a reflection video. We had our digital citizenship class had gone and asked students things that they were learning. And I think those student responses were very eye-opening to our staff in why we need to do this. One of the questions we had asked in one of the activities was, how many of your parents have talked to you about social media and what you're doing? And very, very few, 1 or 2 hands would go up. They're walking around with phones and things like that. I think a lot of times we assume there's things that they've already heard and they aren't. And we also had a student who said he had applied at Steak and Shake and they had checked his social media account. So I know we talked to our kids about colleges and other places looking, but I don't know that we were always thinking Steak and Shake was checking either. So that really got some buy-in for our staff as well. And then that year we did the webinar with Michelle and kind of talked about our approach. The next year, my tech coaches, we had already done it together as a team, and they ran with it. So we didn't have to take a time. They said, no, we'll handle it. We got it on our own. And this year, we did it in our grades 4 through 12. I think that first year we were more just my coaches were implementing it. And this year we made sure all our one-to-one. I know that the middle school that year did use the app on the iPad, and they used an incentive when the students could show they had completed a story on there, that they could get a ticket to be entered in a drawing. So that, again, motivated our students to want to complete some things. Again, I completed the school application for each school, but this year I just did a teacher worksheet, so my coaches didn't have to do anything for an application. So that saved them a step. And then I'll let Jenna share how we did things last year.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, Jenna, go ahead.
Okay. Last year, we as tech coaches still, we decided as a coach in our building what would work best for us. And so we did we worked together as our buildings and did whatever was best for our grade levels. That worked a lot better too, because we, as the tech building coaches, were going to teachers, and so they kind of responded to the fact that, like, we realize you have a lot going on in your day already, but we've taken the time to get this all set up for you, and all you really have to do is implement it. Like Amy said, at the middle school and high school, we have a study hall time kind of, and it's school-wide, so it was really easy for us to say, this is the time, everybody in the school is going to do it at the same time. And therefore, teachers responded really well to that because it wasn't taking time out of their class. They didn't have to plan anything. It was all there for them. We did use the IDOE plans that were pushed out, but this time we used Canvas. That's our LMS that we are in now, and so we used Canvas to push it out, and the kids were familiar with Canvas and they knew how to get on there and how to work it. It was exciting at the middle school level. You kind of still have to work in the rewards and incentives, so we did do tickets for each thing that was completed. We had a certificate at the end of the day in a module, so once they showed the teacher in their room the module, the teacher gave them a ticket, and then it was the student's responsibility to get the ticket turned in to be in the drawing. Again, all of this was done for teachers, so they just kind of had a monitor in their room that it was happening. The kids kind of like it because they didn't really have to sit and listen to the teacher lecture on one more thing. It was all in Canvas, and they moved at their own speed throughout the modules, so they could take it for what it's worth to them, and each kid takes it differently, so I think that was neat too to see which kids wanted to have conversations after and which kids didn't, and which kids already knew some of the stuff in the module. We did have quite a few of what we call homerooms, which is our study halls, and there were conversations that would come up once the modules were done, so it was neat to see students start talking about it after that. And then Amy completed for our district the application and teacher worksheet again. So again, it made it really easy on us because she took care of that for us. This year we're planning to do the DOE plans again. We're going to push those out through Canvas. It worked super well last year, and so we're going to plan on doing that again this year and letting kids see that and how it works out. If you want to go to the next slide.
And one thing I just want to point out, I will honestly wait until, I know it says the district application isn't opening until October, but I will wait to see what that looks like. The district application was so much less work for me. So if you're someone at the district level and pushing things out in all your buildings, to me it's worth waiting. It took me so much less time to complete that than doing each individual school's application. So.
And now that we've been doing Digital Citizenship Week for a couple of years, our teachers are really starting to buy into it, and they're seeing the importance, like Amy talked about, of the fact that it doesn't necessarily get talked about outside of our classroom like we think it might. So as we move forward, we're kind of expanding on just the week and trying to get it more involved. So a couple of things that you might consider that we are considering is we're going to start involving student tech teams on planning and promoting it. So really listening to some of the students and finding out, you know, what do they think are issues that we need to discuss, what are things that kids need to know about or be brought up, or what things have they not been discussed with that they want to hear about and think students need to hear about. Also, if we can get students saying how important it is and getting involved and excited about it, then clearly it's going to spread throughout the schools. So getting those students involved will be really important. We're also going to try to do more than just a week and do lessons throughout the year. Hopefully me, as now having a district integration specialist, I can get in and go to different classrooms and do more lessons throughout the year and show teachers how easy it is to incorporate it into lessons. We also have a school resource officer now that we can take the chance to use and to promote this and to give us some PDs on social media and what they're seeing in that manner. Our other big hit that we want to do is parent trainings. We haven't done a ton of parent trainings in the past with this, but we have sent home family tip sheets and things like that. And actually in one of our modules, they had to watch something with their parents at home, and then they checked off that it was done, and that got them another ticket into the drawing. And so just making sure that parents have resources too that they can use as they're at home discussing it with their kids and on the evenings and weekends. And then another way, I actually coach volleyball at our high school, and so using coaches in that is another way to spread the knowledge about digital citizenship, and getting those athletes or after-school curricular activities to use it is a great thing to use. We have the question of what types of things did we award. We, at the middle school level, we did some iTunes gift card drawings. We kind of thought that that went hand in hand with promoting the digital citizenship, because you're working on being on your iPad or your device, and the kids, of course, love doing things on their iPads and devices. So we gave away iTunes gift cards as our drawing incentive. But yes, just using more parents and getting parents known, and using everyone that you can in your building to help promote the Digital Citizenship Week has really helped us push forward.
Well, thank you so much, Jenna and Amy. Appreciate you guys sharing your experience and seeing how you've evolved over the last few years. Next is Michael, and he is the Director of Innovative Learning for Portage Township Schools, which committed to the Common Sense certification process for the first time last year. So welcome, Michael.
Hey, thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. It's been a very exciting process, a learning curve. As Portage Township Schools has gotten into the game of working with technology and integrating technology, we have definitely been a great example of reverse engineering, and so we've learned a lot of great lessons through the process. And with that, the IDOE and Common Sense Media has been just an incredible support. So any of you that are considering doing this, know that that support is out there, and it's fantastic. So if you want to go to the next slide, that'd be helpful. Just to give you an overview of Portage Township Schools, we are 7,600 students. We're up in the far northwest region, as they call it. We have 11 school buildings, 8 elementaries, 2 middle, and 1 high school. We are 6th through 11th grade one-to-one with iPads. 12th grade, we call it supported BYOD, which means students are encouraged to bring devices, and then we have devices to support those. I did not put it in my notes, but we are well over 60% free and reduced in our school district. Our elementaries have a strong infusion of technology with 90 iPads that we kind of focus our primary K through 2, and then 210 Chromebooks for our 3 through 5. And then we have a computer lab in each building, which is slowly being transformed over. We call it an innovative lab, but it's going to become a full-blown makerspace, and also with the focus of VR. We have 3 innovative learning coaches for the district, and we're always looking to increase that. Those are certified educators who have been identified as people of strength in regards to incorporating technology into our buildings and into the classroom, focusing on, we're heavily focused in the Baldrige model, or what they know as the 8-step process. So really using technology as a way to differentiate instruction. We have 3 media specialists that we are working with right now to kind of change their role and work with them. And obviously their strength is in content curation, but obviously with now that focus of moving over to digital content curation. We were very blessed to attend the Library of Congress training that was down south that kind of got that momentum going. We use the learning management system Schoology for grades 6 through 12, and then we also encourage our elementaries to use either Google Classroom or the free platform of Schoology. So if you want to change slide, that'd be great. With the big 3 technology that we really wanted to emphasize to support outcome-based learning in the classroom was we jumped on board right away into the Indiana Computer Science Standards. We're a heavily infused Project Lead the Way program. but we wanted to make sure also we were providing opportunities for students for hour of code and many of the other standards that are many of the other decisions that are influenced by the computer science standards. We also identified a need to create a true scope and sequence in regards to our technology skills for our students. And one of the things is we identified the fact, and this kind of rolls into digital citizenship, is we identified the fact that we needed to allow our students to struggle to become better at computer technology skills. So instead of having the computers or devices already logged in for our kindergartners, giving them the skill to log in on their own and use usernames and passwords, which obviously at the beginning of the year is kind of a struggle and sometimes a frustration for our educators, but at the same time, at the end, obviously they build those strengths and it becomes a great asset to them. And then we also really wanted to focus on digital citizenship. Just to give you a backstory in regards to where I came from, I was a band director for many years and then became an assistant principal. But as assistant principal, I was also the attendance officer and also in charge of the juvenile justice system connection to our county. And then I'm also the coordinator for security for our district. And even in my role as a assistant principal, digital citizenship came up time and time again before we even started to move towards a one-to-one model. And this was the great resource that we needed to make it where it wasn't a painful transition, where our teachers were willing and our administration was willing to kind of create that sense of urgency. And so for that, we were grateful. I did create a link, and it looks like it got moved down there. We made a quick reference guide for our educators that looked at all those three. I do apologize at the beginning of the year. We have a couple broken links, but that will be updated. So if you want to come back at it later on and see how that works. But our teachers appreciate that because it's broken down by grade level. Next slide would be wonderful. So Common Sense Media was a logical option for providing lesson plans for the entire district. What we did is we had a very, what we call a crucial conversation in regards to we needed to incorporate digital citizenship. And so in my position, I used to be the director of technology integration, I'm now called Innovative Learning, I was given that charge of we need to create a curriculum that our teachers can use, that it doesn't put a great burden on them because they've already have committed so much in regards to lesson planning, common indicator assessments, NUIA and everything else. How can we do this with teachers will feel comfortable and freely able to do that? So we did our homework, and right about that time also the IDOE presented Common Sense Media and how versatile and easy that lesson process was. So we obviously took the very straightforward scope and sequence that was created by Common Sense Media and asked each one of our grade levels to go ahead and do those 5 lessons per grade level. And each building created, and one of the things that we did is we pushed Digital Citizenship Week as kind of our kickoff, but each building created a timeline that worked with their planned calendar. And so we have a variety of many different ways it's done. Some of our schools want to front load it and, kind of, I don't want to say get it out of the way, but get the lessons moving and then kind of use more open conversation opportunities to do their own thing. Some did it during what we call tribe time, which is at our high school, which is when our students rarely come together kind of in a homeroom experience. And some of our schools wanted to do it kind of as end of the school year, kind of wrapping up and giving those students an opportunity to come together and talk about those things. And then when they go off for the summer, they have that fresh in their mind. We also provided online videos of our own on our website and in our LMS that we created with students. And then we also pulled some public resources. We also had 2 parent nights, which I think is very, very crucial in the success of this, is 2 parent nights on online safety.
and that was combined not just by the director of technology, but we had the school resource officers, which we have 2 in our district, our homeschool advisors, administrators, and then myself, and we provided parents with some very straightforward information, and those 2 nights were different. They were varying. We actually had a K through 4 and then a 5 through 12 because obviously some of the maturity factors we wanted to take into factor and how those discussions were had. You know, things like even VPNs and parents understanding what a VPN and the impact that has in a building or in a classroom or at home and how that could affect things. And then we did the collection of artifacts. And so all I did was ask my principals to reach out to their teachers and create artifacts and evidence of their work and send it to my office as lessons completed. And I will tell you, this is where I was so proud of our teachers and our students through our teachers because I was overwhelmed. I know that our inter-office delivery person that goes from building to building with envelopes was overwhelmed because I was getting baskets and baskets of envelopes filled. By the time I got done counting, I actually clicked at over 6,000 artifacts throughout the year that we used as part of what we presented to Common Sense Media, but we also used as some of our bragging points in regards to what our students were doing. And then the application process was very, very painless. I did all the work as the previous district did also. I just thought it was only fair just because they were in the trenches doing the trench work. I had originally no intention to apply because this was our first piloted year. I had no intention to apply to certify our schools or our district. But once I reached out to Common Sense Media and explained our situation and the participation and the willingness of everything that happened, they encouraged us to apply and was very, very flattered and floored, to be honest, that we were certified in all 11 schools and our district itself through the process. So if any of you, as you go through this debate, ever applying or working through the process, like I said, Common Sense Media has been a tremendous resource, and we are very grateful for that. And once again, the support from IDOE and eLearning has just been fantastic too. And it's allowed us to grow as teachers and as citizens. We've actually started a couple PLCs that are specific in the idea of digital citizenship. We do have an innovative student team at the high school that not only does Tier 1 tech level support, but also meets on a monthly basis to discuss issues and things that we need to address to help support our students to make wiser choices. So that's about the gist of what we've been doing, and very appreciative of the whole process.
Thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate it, and congratulations on your first year being certified. Up ahead, Andy and Seth are also first-timers. They provide support to all the teachers in their areas related to curriculum instruction and technology integration at Northwest Allen County Schools in Fort Wayne. And gentlemen, I'm sorry that you are short on time. I know you have some incredible slides, and I will be sharing the slide deck, but I'm going to turn it over to you now. Seth, Andy, can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, as Michelle said, this is our first year as Digital Citizenship certified as a certified school. Our information's here. Obviously, you can contact us if you have any questions as you're kind of looking through the slides that will be posted later on. As we went through the process and we were brought on board as curriculum coordinators a year and a half ago, one of the first things, and you can go on to the next slide, one of the first things that we wanted to address at the district level really were some concerns that we were hearing from administrators and from teachers, cyberbullying and sexting and social media, and just how we're going to handle devices and what are our kids going to be doing with them when they're in the classroom, and how are they going to be behaving at home. These were all concerns we were hearing quite a bit, and so we began looking for solutions pretty early on to that problem in advance of going one-to-one last fall for grades 6 through 12 and one-to-one for K through 5 last week. So as we kind of started that, we were thinking more along the lines of being proactive and what we could do in advance to help set up our students for success, to help calm the nerves and the anxieties of some of our teachers and our administrators. And ultimately, we settled on Common Sense Media as being a fantastic resource, and a digital citizenship curriculum being the best possible way to do this for our teachers, because at the end of the day, the lessons were already created. We just had to deliver them and be a little bit more purposeful with what that looked like. So as we progress through these, and you can kind of click through the slides, Mary, if you want to. We have them here, but I don't know if we need to necessarily follow them. We looked at a series of steps to figure out why we wanted to do this. Each one of these is a good reason as to why Common Sense Media and digital citizenship fit the needs of our district. And ultimately, coming off of these whys, we settled on a vision that we could use as kind of a guide, both from our district's mission statement on the next slide, and from some of our desires. And so these outcomes played a big role in that. These were our points of emphasis when we pitched the curriculum idea to our administration, to the school board, to the different principals. And on the next slide, the vision, I guess that's slide, maybe that's the next one. I'm trying to look at this without looking at the other one. We came up with the idea of reviewing our options and just seeing what everyone's doing, and coming down to this sort of scope and sequence that would work. And so looking at the whole process, we've kind of heard what everyone else has done, and we followed a lot of those very same steps. The scope and sequence that we used followed along a lot of ways with what we saw East Allen County schools doing, and even kind of looking at the series of lessons that are built into the Common Sense Media kind of grade pathways. And so we designed a scope and sequence that would fit the needs immediately for grades 6 through 12, kind of prioritizing certain lessons in the very first year of one-to-one, and looking at a long-term plan over the course of 4 years, how we could maybe touch on all of those lessons at every single grade level without having a lot of repetition. And so if you want to take a look at the scope and sequence that we have, when the slides are posted, this is a great resource, and it'll be changing a little bit as we progress through this. But this seemed to have a great fit for the needs of our district and what we wanted to do, ultimately at the district level for the years to come. Andy, you can kind of keep going here through these.
All right, so if you click on this link there in the first bullet, it's going to show you basically how we present it to our staff. But we had to sell it to our staff, and that actually went over pretty well, because they understood the need. If we're going to be giving this device to our students, we need to be able to basically understand why the need for this special digital citizenship program. And so what we did over the last year is we had 5, each school did 5, so we worked with predominantly with our middle school and high school, so that's 2 middle schools and 1 high school, and each of those schools had 5 lessons that were taught throughout the year. In our elementary schools, basically it was building by building, but all of our buildings participated in it. And what was our percentage of teachers who ended up being digitally certified? 65%. 65% of our teachers in our district were digitally certified after going through this protocol. Now, considering how many schools that we have, 11 schools, actually 10. You think I could count that high? 10 schools, but only 3 of them last year were one-to-one, and so we have 7 elementary schools. So for us to have 65% of our teachers who were digitally citizenship certified, that means that a lot of those elementary teachers put in some work in preparation for going one-to-one just this week. And so, as Seth said, we have really worked on being proactive. If you move on to step 7 to that slide, here we sent out letters to our families also telling them why we were doing our digital citizenship curriculum and what were some of the points of emphasis.
And as Michelle said, you know, there's 3 points of contact for parents, and so these really are those 3 points of contact that we use: the website, the newsletters, and then we sent out a specific letter that was K-5 or 6 through 12 oriented according to the needs of those groups.
And so we had very good buy-in from our school board on down to our teachers, and we're going to continue it this year. And one of the biggest parts of the buy-in was, you know, it's part of your school's brand. I mean, we really focus on, we want to teach the whole child. And part of teaching the whole child is to make sure that they are able to function in the world when they get out of school. And so we want them to be able to surf the net safely, protect their passwords, just really know how to navigate and use the various devices they're going to be using in their life in a good and wholesome way. And we found that the digital citizenship program through Common Sense was a great start.
And we can wrap it up there, Mary and Michelle.
I don't know about you, but I'm okay with you guys taking a couple more minutes. If people need to take off, I totally get it. But for the archive's sake, if you guys want to kind of summarize your last 2 slides, you have great things to share, I know.
So as we went through this whole process, yeah, we absolutely will. As we went through the whole process, the key that we started with the, I guess, the concept of putting this across our whole district was getting some buy-in, and we got early administrative buy-in. They were willing, they were all for the idea of certification and what that looked like as a great marketing tool for the district. You know, but as we look at this year and where we go next, you know, now what, right? So we've got the administrators on board. We need to do a little bit better job of getting our teachers on board. We had a lot of teachers do it, but part of that was simply because of the organized rollout of the plan. Nearly, I have to look back, but over 92, 93% of all of our teachers at the high school and at our 2 middle schools were certified because we leveraged some of those downtime periods, as we heard earlier, to provide the instruction. Our principals at the middle schools committed an hour, the first hour of school, 5 or 6 days of the year, so we could provide that formal instruction. In our high school, we utilized our homeroom period, which gave us some really nice times, 45-minute chunks to provide that instruction. But we need to kind of move beyond those isolated lessons and think more about that digital citizenship instruction. And that's kind of exciting then, knowing that this year the idea is less on just straight digital citizenship and a lot more on just digital instruction and teaching strategies and building that citizenship into, you know, the behaviors we expect to see our students using on a day-to-day basis with our students and with our classrooms.
Yeah, our major goal is good digital citizenship to become part of our school's culture. And so last year our kids have gotten a good introduction to it, and so now we're just moving on to the next phase. It's just every day are we doing the right things when we're online. And so I think this year, instead of having 5 longer lessons, we're going to break it up in our high school and have smaller lessons but more often, so that it's a kind of it's just part of our weekly thing or monthly thing where we're spending some time reiterating and learning new things about digital citizenship. I think our middle schools are still going to do, what they would do is they would just set their schedule on a 1-hour delay and take care of the digital citizenship in the morning. And I think our elementary schools are still going to do it building by building, whatever fits their schedule the same. But we got really good feedback from our elementary teachers last year. So since they're all one-to-one with Chromebooks this year, we expect to have, I would expect 100% in our elementary schools.
Yeah, it'll be much higher. And we've got, again, as we've already heard, you know, just sending out a really quick email to our principals, inviting them to participate in Common Sense, or I guess not Common Sense, in Digital Citizenship Week, Indiana Digital Citizenship Week. And we've heard a lot of positive responses back, you know, with principals asking questions about how they get involved, what they might need to do, and how we can make that, again, a purposeful project that we can implement pretty well. Similarly to the other two, I took the role as the project lead. I filed all the paperwork, and I would again second the idea of waiting until that district application comes out. It's much easier at the district level to put everybody onto that application and to kind of do it from a single point that collects the documentation and sort of facilitates the conversations with common sense. Talking with Louisa Sullivan, it does sound like it's going to be a little bit different this year with the kind of the way the paperwork is filed, but at the end of the day, it still sounds as if we can still just as easily facilitate that through a single district's point person. But what I love about this year is far more people can be involved and far more people can be recognized, for their efforts and for their role in that process throughout our district, as opposed to just those classroom teachers who are truly facilitating that instruction. So again, as we look at this year, we've touched on a lot of the things. We're going to revisit our scope and sequence, make sure those things still fit the needs of our students and our community, given that we are now K through 12, one-to-one. We're going to look through, and we're already looking into the ability for our district to develop and kind of carry out a parent tech night or a series of parent tech nights, some intentional parent PD and social media communication plans, and again, just really reinforcing with parents and with our teachers and with our students and really just with the community as a whole what digital citizenship is, how we can help our students make better decisions, and ultimately how we can prepare them for the future that they're going to be living in.
Yeah, the Parent Tech Nights, we did one of those at one of our middle schools last year, and it went over really, really well. And we're currently in discussions on how we're going to do those at the elementary schools, because we find it's going to be really, really important there, since they just recently went a one-to-one, and it's so new to those young kids and the parents too. So that Parent Tech Nights with them will be an unbelievable support in our digital citizenship curriculum.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much to all of our attendees for sticking it out. I think you got fed really well in these extra 2 minutes. Gentlemen, I appreciate you being flexible in that. And you probably saw that I added a couple of links in the chat just now. Do definitely take your questions to the community. All of our presenters are there, I think, if I remember correctly. And if not, I will certainly help make sure we get those answered. And I appreciate everybody being here. I am super excited about Indiana Digital Citizenship Week on September 11th through the 15th. Continue watching our social media and checking the Learning Connection for announcements. And again, thank you to all of our educator presenters today. You guys are the ones that really make a difference, and I can't tell you how much we value your contributions and your sharing with others. So that brings us to the conclusion. Mary will be messaging everyone with your AGP point information. And as she noted earlier, there will be a recorded webinar archive available in the following week, but you probably saw too that I shared the slides. I will also make sure that if someone asks about those slides in the Google Plus community, that we can link them there. I'll wait till I get asked, but that's always a possibility. Again, thanks everybody and have a good evening.